Hello to everyone out there at the liveactionanime.org forums. I'm Thrash.Death, and today I'm going to be talking about Tales from Earthsea. I watched it on TV, so I don't have the box to hand as usual. Anyway, I haven't talked about any Studio Ghibli movies before this. And that's not because I have anything against the studio, so to speak. I just think that sort of adding to the mountains of praise that Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata have received over the course of their careers would be somewhat redundant. But this Goro Miyazaki, Hayao Miyazaki's son's first effort with the studio, Tales from Earthsea, is it's a different issue. It's sort of the centre point of quite a bit of controversy since it's come out. Both Hayao Miyazaki and Ursula Le Guin, the person whose novels the film is an adaptation of, both had quite ambivalent reactions to it, so I thought I'd just give you my thoughts on my seeing this movie for the first time just the other day. And suffice it to say that I hate to say this about a Studio Ghibli film, but I really wasn't particularly impressed. The story begins in the titular land of Earthsea, your standard fantasy kingdom. We get introduced to the land, which is sort of suffering from this ongoing corruption. Crops are dying, famines are going on, plagues, all that sort of bad shit. And the land just generally seems to be going to pot. The balance, we're told, is being threatened. The balance between life and death is being threatened by some sort of external force. And just to top it all off, the king of the kingdom that we're introduced to is killed by his son, Aaron, who goes on to become the protagonist of the movie while he's in some sort of hypnotic trance. He takes his father's sword and runs off with it after he comes to his senses. While he's wandering the desert wastes outside the kingdom, because all fantasy kingdoms seem to be surrounded by desert wastes and never anything else for some reason, Aaron gets picked up by an elderly wizard known as Sparrowhawk, who's going around the land of Earthsea looking for what it is that's causing this corruption of the balance and seeking to redress it. And in time we get revealed that there's another wizard, powerful wizard named Cobb, who's looking to manipulate the balance in order to become immortal. Now, if your eyes glazed over when I mentioned that there's a character named Sparrowhawk in this movie, I don't blame you, because it's kind of emblematic of just the sort of straight-faced fantasy cliche that Tales from Earthsea indulges in. I'm not sure whether it's because of the source material that it's adapted from, the novels of Ursula Le Guin, or whether it's a fault of its own, but nevertheless, I can't help but compare Tales from Earthsea to the movies of Goro Miyazaki's father, obviously, Hayao. And compared to the likes of Laputa and Mononoke, which are both incredibly vibrant, imaginative works that present us with these really richly textured and characterized worlds, Tales from Earthsea suffers from, and I think this is its biggest problem, suffers from an incredible lack of imagination. You have your young prince as a protagonist, you have a magic sword, you have an elderly wizard father figure, you have an evil wizard looking to become immortal, a young love interest. Everything here has been done to death in countless other fantasy stories before it, and it doesn't bring anything new to the table or introduce anything new to the formula. And in a genre such as fantasy, where imagination is the key component, the author's imagination, playing all these cliches so straight is pretty much a crippling detriment, I think. It would help if it was a particularly well plotted movie, which it isn't, because apparently this was actually adapted from 3 separate Earthsea novels by Ursula Le Guin, and sort of all crammed together in a sort of mishmash. And it does occur as being a sort of mishmash because a lot of plot lines get abruptly introduced and then discarded. Some others are hastily resolved. A lot of the characters' motivations and the hypnosis that Aaron appears to be under at times is never particularly aptly described or characterized. The whole thing just occurs as not really having a central focus until the very end, by which point it's too late. And in addition to that, the movie suffers from being very downplayed in scale. Again, I hate to keep coming back to Laputa and Mononoke, but look at the sort of apocalyptic proportions that were going on in those movies' finales. Compare that to the ending of Tales from Earthsea, which is basically just sort of confronting the villain in his castle. It's a perfectly fine resolution to the conflict, but it's just so limited in scope and scale that it can't help but make you think of all the other movies that have done these sort of things before, and so much better. This isn't the sort of breathless plotting and richly imagined world building that I expect from a Studio Ghibli film. Even other studios like Gonzo's Origin Spirits of the Past have aped Ghibli's style and come up with better results than this. Say what you want about Origin Spirits of the Past, the shit that was going on by the finale of that film was absolutely epic in proportions. Compared to Tales from Earthsea, it's just everything's so downplayed and small that it's just so unsatisfying by the time it all comes to a head. The characters are likeable enough, I suppose, even if Aaron does occur as being a bit of an emo bitch from time to time. I hate to use that term, but I don't know, it seems applicable here, but with all this self-loathing over having stabbed his father and all that, and he just spends about 2/3 of the movie brooding over that and being totally ineffectual. But the other characters, the young love interest, Teru and Sparrowhawk, they're both quite affable characters enough, and the villain's not bad, even if he is pretty freaky to look at. I have to give Earthsea its due in terms of its production values. It's a very nicely animated film. It's all hand-drawn in sort of classic Ghibli style. Maybe not as high production values as some comparable Ghibli efforts, but it still looks very pretty. I saw the version I saw was dubbed, and the voice work was very good. The score is magnificent. That's by far and away the standout point of the movie. The score is absolutely richly textured, and everything that the world building going on in this film isn't. And it really is quite a fulfilling score, but production values alone unfortunately can't make this a worthwhile experience. Ultimately, I think Earthsea, for me, gets a 2-star rating on the 4-star scale. And even that score I give out with reservations, because at any point I was watching this movie, I was thinking of maybe half a dozen other movies that I could be watching at the same time and having a more entertaining, fulfilling time watching. So really, Tales from Earthsea, it was met with very, shall we say, mixed reception in both Japan and over here. And after seeing it, I can see that the reception it got was justified. So yeah, stick to, maybe Goro Miyazaki was just trying too hard to follow in his father's footsteps. Maybe it's a problem with the source novels, maybe it's a combination of both. But for whatever reason, this doesn't live up to the standards that I expect of a Studio Ghibli adventure movie. So yeah, just go back, rewatch Princess Mononoke or whatever. Tales from Earthsea, you can skip it quite safely. Anyway, I'm Thrashed All Death, and I'll be seeing you all again soon. See you next time. Goodbye.